I suppose you're wondering what I'm making now. Well, just take a look over here, you'll see. Figure it out yet? So I already got 2 sides made. I wanted to get a couple sides made to make sure I had the process down correctly. I got my dimensions written on my nice piece of styrofoam here, and that's why I cut all these too. This will be I have the left side done, so this will be the right side. So I'm going to take you through the process here, how I make this, and then we'll show you the finished product after it's all done, and then we'll have to get it up north, get it up on the platform. So this particular one is for the platform that I made 2 years ago, that I put my little pop-up blind on. So that pop-up blind is getting bad. The zipper's getting bad, and I mean, it still works. I could use it another season, but I thought, well, I like where the stand is at. I like where the platform's at. I'm seeing a lot of deer sitting there, so I'm gonna make it more permanent, and we're gonna push it back a little bit into the trees, and then we're gonna put this shell on there, if you want to call it that, and seal it all up good. Put a heater in there, and make it a permanent stand. And well, let's get going on this. So what I ended up doing here is these walls are 67 inches wide by 6 feet tall. So I couldn't get them up my steps. I had the first one, the front panel here, I had made as a solid panel. And when my stepson was home here a week or 2 ago, we tried carrying it up the steps, and it won't fit up my steps. So I ended up cutting that one in half. So after doing that, these next 2 panels, I decided to, I'm just gonna make them in 2 halves, okay? So I'm kind of screwing the halves together to assemble it, and then I'm taking it back apart, and then I can carry it up the steps, because it'll only be 30 something inches wide, and then I can carry it up the steps, and we'll bolt it all back together up on the stand. So I cut all these pieces, pre-cut these. These are 28.5, and I'm just going to join them together for now to make it one piece. And that's what I saved the littler blocks for. And I'm just going to screw them together. And I'm just using the edge of my table here as kind of a straight edge to get these, somewhat straight. If you don't pre-drill, it always seems to move a little bit on you. So it pays to pre-drill, but if you're making something that really matters, this doesn't matter. This will really flex. Once I take this back apart, it flexes all over the place. The boards are all warped, I don't know where you go to buy a good 2x4 nowadays, but I can't find them. So there you have it. That's our bottom piece, and Now next I'll show you how we put this, attach the wall piece to the bottom piece here. So seeing everything's so warped and twisted, I use these C-clamps. I clamp it right to the table so that I'm getting this joint somewhat straight. And I just tap them and get them the best I can with the hammer, you know, and now what we're gonna do is, the first one I did, the first panel, I took and I doweled all of these. I have dowels here from years ago when I used to do cabinet making and stuff, and I had a whole bunch of them sitting here, and I was going to use them up on this project, and it got so time consuming sitting there drilling all them dowel holes and stuff. So all I'm doing is putting 2 big leg bolts through on each end, and that's how I'm holding this together. So for this instance, I'm using these big screws. Now you've probably seen these before in some of my other videos. This is just a big leg bolt for doing pull barns and whatever. So I'm gonna pre-drill as deep as I can go with my drill bit. I'm gonna pre-drill 2 holes here on the ends. And we just drive them in. And that will not come apart. And that screw's going in there a good 2 plus inches into that other 2x4. So that'll never come apart. So our next board that we got to put on is our window cross member, and so the center of our windows I calculated out to be at 45 inches. So the window is 12 inches wide, or tall, 12 inches tall. So we make a mark at 39, and we're going to make a mark at 51, and 45 is our center line. And that'll be the top and the bottom of our window. So the next board goes at below the line, over here on this side. So at this point, you're probably asking yourself, why am I laying the 2x4s flat instead of standing them like you do when you normally frame a house? Well, I'm not framing a house. I'm just making a tree stand. This thing's going to be sitting out there. There's really nothing there. It's going to be in and amongst trees. So even a good wind, it's a small enough structure that there is no one force against that wall that's going to make that wall blow down. You know, and I could be wrong. You know, a tornado comes through, it's gonna trash everything. Well, then it's gonna be gone. But you know, for what I'm making here, just laying them flat, it gives me more surface to glue the panel on, and and it's way lighter. If I would frame it normally, I would have to use 2, 3, 4, 5, I don't know, a couple extra 2x4s, and that thing would get really heavy. So this way, the way I'm framing this out, this is really light. I can lift this myself, no problem. So it'll make it easier for putting it together and carrying it out of the basement here and stuff and whatever. So let's get the other one on the other side over there. Okay, so we got the 2 window cross members put together here. And so the next thing we have to do, we have a 12-inch piece that makes the side of the window. So on the main window was 48 inches. The side windows are only going to be 36 inches. And it gives me plenty of room to shoot out of there. And so that leaves us with 14 inches. So we're going to mark this at 14 inches here. Okay, so we'll just double check our measurement there. Yep, 36 and 12, and we're good to go. So now, because these aren't really holding anything together, I'm just putting these in with one of the littler, actually I don't have one laying here, but this type of screw, a regular construction screw, and but a little longer than this one. And I'm just going through this way and just screwing them together. The screws I'm using here are only 3 3/4. So a 2x4 is 3 1/2. So that leaves me a little short of getting into this other piece. So what I do is I basically countersink this other board, the depth with a bigger drill here, the size of the head. Okay, and I basically go the depth of my bit here. So that's what I have my drill marked at. So I go and I just drill a hole that deep into this end 2x4. Okay, so that's probably a little over an inch that I'm going in there. So that'll give me 1 1/4 inches into this other board. And then I just drive it in until it pops out of the bit. All right, good and solid. So let's finish up this window. So the next piece I have to put on here is basically the roof line. All right. So this one's tough to measure because I have these pieces cut at a 10-degree angle when I pre-cut these wall pieces. So the easiest way to measure this piece is to just clamp a piece on here and scribe a line. So I'm just going to line this up on both ends here. Throw a clamp on there so it doesn't move on me. Throw a clamp on that side. And I'm just going to hold my pencil underneath there and I'm going to scribe a line. Now I know my saw is set at 10 degrees. So, you know, I just have to line up to that line and just cut it off. It's the easiest way to measure a board like that. I don't know how you'd measure it otherwise. I suppose you could trig it out or something, but yeah, that's too much like thinking. Alright, let's go get this board cut. So that is a perfect fit that way. It went right together. So that gets screwed in the same way as the other pieces did. I just put the screw at a little bit of an angle. Otherwise it's basically held in the same way. So what you have to be careful with when you're using these big lag bolts like that is you don't want to get too close to the edge of your board. Because if you get too close over here on the end, it's just this stuff just breaks. So you gotta kind of stay to the middle a little more, or put the screw in at a little bit of an angle, you know, so that it stays away from the edge of that board. But this is all finished now. So I got basically 2 more boards to make, which is the center board, okay? But that gets ripped in half. So I make the board, because this is also one of them angled cuts here. So I make that board, and then I take it over on the table saw and I just rip it down the middle. So let's get those made right away. The board on the bottom end there, that's just a straight board. That I can just measure and cut. But this top one has this same 10-degree angle on it. So I had a piece left over from when I cut the other piece. So I'm just going to set that in here like this here. And I made a mark on my center line. And again, I'm just going to scribe it and go cut it at that 10-degree angle. Now at this point, you're probably wondering, you're probably saying to yourself, hey, he never cut that board in half, you know? Well, I'm going to cut this board in half, but I'm going to wait until I have all of this measured and made and in place. And then I'm just going to take my circle saw and just cut this little piece here, and then it'll all be held together, you know, where it needs to be. So that's why I'm doing it that way. I could cut that, but then it would make it harder to screw it in and everything. So I just leave it together for now. And then I'm going to cut this piece here, and then I'll cut it with the circle saw. Let's go get this one cut up and that one cut up. So I marked one of these boards. And I'm just going to line that up to the center of my blade. Best I can. Alright, and we're just going to rip her down. There you have it, 2 evenly cut boards. So let's go get these screwed in. Seeing these boards aren't really part of the structure either. We're just going to use the smaller screw on these also. And I'm just going to put one right down the center. And then when this gets glued to the panel, that'll help hold everything together. And it's more for me to assemble it than for it actually doing anything structurally once this is all put together. Okay, now that I got that all screwed together, now I'm going to take my little circle saw and I'm going to cut this off. So this is the saw I'm going to use. I really like this saw. The only issue with it is the battery doesn't seem to hold up very long. You know, if you're cutting thin plywood or like I've been cutting this styrofoam with it and stuff, it works really good for that type of stuff. But boy, you start cutting 2x4s or whatever, and that battery kills that battery in a hurry. So I don't know. This is an older model of the DeWalt. I don't know if there's if the newer ones are a little better. But why I like this one, it's got a real thin, real narrow blade on it. And when I used to build boats, this worked really good for cutting a curve in a piece of plywood. And so that's what I had originally gotten it for, and I haven't built a boat now in a while, so I use it for little projects like this, and this will work really good for this because it's not going to give me that big saw curve. Alright, there you go. So now I got my two halves. So we gotta get this piece down here screwed on yet, and then this is done. We're ready for styrofoam. And just like that, you have two halves. Okay? So, now like I said before, you know, I don't know where you get a good 2x4 from. So these are all twisted. So when I put it together over there, I have to clamp it and whatever to put the screws in. But that's part of working with wood, I guess. You know, it is what it is. So the next step is getting the foam attached. Okay, so the next thing we need to do is we need to get this styrofoam glued on here. So what I'm using for that is I'm just using the Gorilla Glue brand. It's made for foam board and paneling and that type of stuff. And it is an exterior grade for outdoor, so it's waterproof, so it'll hold up to the moisture and stuff out there. But anyhow, I took this sheet and I just cut a big sheet in half, and it's easier to work with that way, you know. So I'm just going to set it on here and line it up to this inside edge. It gives me my straight edge there, my seam, and then I'll just trim the rest of this off after it's glued on there. And that seems to work the best. You start working with a big sheet, it's hard to move around, it's hard to flip here on the table and stuff. So it's just easier cutting it in half like that and working with it that way. So we're just going to take and do a little bead on there. bead all the way around like that. And we're going to flip our panel on there. And I have a line drawn right here to line up the top edge. Just like that. Get that lined up nice, and my next piece will go on the top half of it. So now what I have here is I have these little nails with a plastic washer on, and they're made for this foam. So I just put a couple around here to hold it in place so that I can flip it over and keep working with it, and that'll give it time for the glue to set up. So now we got this fastened on here. We're just going to flip it over. Then we're going to trim this styrofoam off. This one gets trimmed off right at the bottom. This one here has another 2x4 there, so it's basically 1.5 inches out. So we're going to mark that, and I might have a piece here that I can cut that 1.5 inches alongside it. So we're just using the cordless jigsaw here, and I'm putting a blade tight up against that board, and I'm just zipping this off. Okay, so we cut this, we put a 2x4 there, and we cut this so it's at that 1.5 inch length. And so we're ready to flip it over, put the other piece on, and then this panel is finished. So now, once you got this styrofoam on here, this is kind of fragile out there where it's just hanging off the edge, you know, where it's right flush with the 2x4. It ain't so bad. So you got to be careful when you're flipping it not to set it on that edge, because it'll break right off, you know. Now, some of this material comes with the tongue and groove, okay? Some of it does not. So, and sometimes you ain't got a choice. So it was like the 3/4 inch had the tongue and groove, and then you go up to 1 inch or 1.5 inches, whatever it was, sit next to it, and it didn't have the tongue and groove. So it's your choice on something like this. That piece just goes on there, and then we do the same thing. We just trim that off. So again, we got this second piece glued on there, and we're just going to take the jigsaw and just rip this top end off here. Just like that. So then the last thing we need to do is we need to cut out that window. Okay, that's it. Got first side done. So let's get the second side put together quick. So really, the only thing left to do is to paint it. So the inside gets painted flat black. So I just do that with a brush. Just paint this whole thing. So we'll get that done. And then we'll let that dry, and then we'll flip it over, and I'll show you how I do the camo, or the design, whatever you want to call it. Okay, so let's get going on the paint. All right, so the whole inside is painted black. We'll just let this dry for a day or two, and then we'll flip it over, and I'll show you how I do my camo pattern. But you know, I may have missed a few spots here and there, but once I get this all put together out in the woods, I'm going to have some damage to it. So I'll just take a spray bomb out there and, you know, touch up some spots once I get it all put together out there. But, well, that's it for now. Okay, so we got to get this thing painted. So you saw before I started painting the back, it's black. The whole inside is going to be flat black, okay? And then on the outside here, I used a flat brown, okay, as my base color, just to put something on there to cover the foam, okay? And then you can see my artistic talent here. I drew some trees on there, okay? So you're probably asking yourself, why do I have these going across here around the window, okay? So if you go back and look at my video from a couple years ago on ground blind hunting, one of the things I point out is that even though the deer are supposed to be colorblind, they can't see anything, okay? They can see stuff, okay? And one of the things they see, and it took me a little while to figure this out, what this old doe was seeing out there in the field. As soon as I opened that window in that hunting blind, that ground blind, she could tell there was something different there, okay? It wasn't that she was seeing anything, she just was seeing something different, okay? So when you have the window closed, it's all camouflaged, right? Well, now you go out there on a Saturday afternoon and you open that window up, now she's seeing black, okay? Because the inside of that ground blind is black. So I got the bright idea, you know, I'm gonna paint those windows black so that it always looks like they're black. Made a huge difference. She doesn't even seem to be bothered by that window being open anymore in that ground blind. So yes, they're colorblind, they can't see certain colors, but they still can see, okay? So my whole window here area is gonna be black, okay? And then when I open the window, they'll be seeing black too, because the whole inside is gonna be black, all right? The only time that can be an issue is if she's standing off to the side, you know, looking in the corner, and she can see out that other window over there, okay? That can trigger her, but you know, that's why I'm doing it this way. So it doesn't have to look special. You don't have to be an artist to do this. All you're doing is trying to break it up so that it blends in with the other trees and the other sticks that are out there in the woods. So I got the brown and the black on here. Now we're gonna add some leaves. So I made myself a little stencil here. This is an oak leaf, okay? All I did was print out a clip art of an oak leaf, and I transferred it onto this piece of styrofoam and just stuck a piece of metal rod into the end of it to hold it. And I'm using 3 different colors, and these are all flat, okay? So you don't want the shiny paints. Actually, this one's considered satin, but that's sort of a in between a flat and a gloss. Yeah, I think these are all considered satin, but they're dull. You know, they have a dull finish compared to a shiny finish, and you definitely can see the difference. So I got a yellow, I got a, you know, the olive drab green, and then I got a dark green, and that's what we're gonna paint. We're gonna paint several different colored leaves on here, and then we're gonna come back in and use the cedar leaf. The cedar leaf, I just added a wooden stick to it, and you know, you're gonna hold it up there and just, okay, and it works pretty good. So let's get at this here. So we're just gonna plop these in any old place. Nothing fancy, right? Doesn't have to be real sharp or distinct. We're just putting them in there. Okay, here we got a few yellows in there. I'll do a couple of these olive drab greens. Do a few dark greens. Okay, so we got the leaves all painted on there, and none of these have to be correct. You're just putting this on there to give it a 3D effect. So the next thing I want to do is I want to paint a couple of little branches on there with the flat black. So the paints I use, these are all oil-based paints. So you can't just clean this out of a brush. You need to have solvents and stuff to clean this out of a brush. So what I do is I go out and get these little foam brushes. They're like, I don't know, 30 to 50 cents a piece. I use them once and I throw them away, okay? Instead of trying to have solvents down here in a bucket of solvent and everything else. So I got a little bit of paint left in here. Hopefully this will be enough. But all I do is I just make a nice stem. Doesn't have to look like nothing. Just has to look somewhat, just to give it some more texture. just like that, it comes to life. Right. So the next coat is going to be our leaf here, our fern leaf. Now, this is going to break up the rest of it. It's going to give it more of a fuzzy tone to it. So wherever I got the darker leaves, I'm going to throw on some yellow. And where I got the lighter leaves, I'll throw on some of the darker colors. And we just go around the whole thing and just keep blasting it. See how that gives it that ferny look to it? It kind of looks kind of cool. Now, if you don't have a cedar branch, you can use any kind of branch, any kind of branch where you can get a distinctive leaf pattern out of it will work. So, you know, like a pine tree probably won't work that well, but you know, you have to have a defined shape. So, I don't know, maybe like an ash or some type of a multiple leaf style leaf on one of your trees, just so that it gives it some look. You can see that's starting to take shape. Now we're going to add some other colors yet. We add the olive drab and dark green on there. What I'm trying to do is I'm trying to hit the spots that have, you know, more brown to them. I'm trying to get a little bit of this darker green in those spots. Okay, you get the idea, right? So the reason I use the oak branches is because, or the oak leaves, is because that's what we predominantly have. Oaks. We have some popples, but other than that, we have a lot of cedar, white pine, and jack pine. So obviously the jack pine, I suppose I could hang some pine cones on there or something, but you know, that's how I do it. It's all painted. It's ready to go. So this just gives it a little three-dimensional effect that, you know, when the deer are walking through there's other branches from the real trees out there, and it just breaks it up so that it doesn't look like a big solid blob sitting out there. I watch a lot of videos, obviously, other people's videos, and one of the things I see on the, you know, guys doing food plots or just setting up their woods, they have one of these, and I won't say a brand name, but you know, one of these big box blinds out there sitting right out smack dab out in the middle of the field. Okay, the deer can see that. Okay, whether they're colorblind or not, they see the object sitting there and they know it's something that isn't normally there. So after a while, yes, they get used to it, but if you're just gonna hang something out there and it's just gonna look like a big blob sitting out in the middle of the field, it's not gonna be a productive spot as far as I'm concerned. You have to have this blending in to the background so that you can sit out there undetected. You can get the deer to walk right up to. I have deer, you know, within 10 yards of me sitting in these blinds, so they're not bothered by it because it's up in the trees and it looks like it's supposed to look. So, I mean, it's to each his own, but I think you need to brush in those blinds or do. I'm not knocking those blinds. Those are great for rifles, even for archery if you can conceal them. And concealment can be as much as standing branches up against them. Will make a huge difference over just being a box out there in the middle of a field. So you know, I'm sure I'll get some weird comments on that one, but that is how I feel about it, and that's why I'm making this the way I am. So this is all set to go. I'm gonna get this bolted on here to the other piece here, and then I'm gonna give you a little bit of a tour of the inside and what that window looks like after I got that window made, and that should almost be it. Well, there it is, folks. That last panel was really twisted. I still don't have the bottom straight down here, but took a little bit to screw that together. Hopefully if I leave it sit like this for a while, it kind of takes some shape, and it won't be so hard once I get out in the woods to put it together. But at any rate, I put screws in there to hold that all together, so it should follow the same hole when I put it together out there, and I should be able to get it pretty straight again. But I wanted to show you the window here, okay? So the window is all black, okay? And then I have two little pieces of plexiglass here that not sure how I want to do that yet. But the idea is, you know, warm sunny day, September, October, early October, even late October this year, even November was pretty warm this year up there. But nice warm sunny day. I can open this all the way up, okay? Just bring it up like that there. I have a big wide window to shoot out of, okay? So when the weather turns in November and it gets cold and I want to run the heater and stuff, well, then I can keep this closed. I have the two pieces of plexiglass there that I can just, you know, slide open, and that makes a smaller window. I won't lose as much heat. And actually, I'm hoping, I mean, they're not too noisy, but they make noise. So I'm hoping I could just leave them shut, put a little knob on here, and then just slide them open when the deer is out there. But I'll have to test that out a little bit with the does first, because they're the ones that are going to bust you up. The bucks don't seem to care for some reason. They're not as spooky as the does are. But so that's how that's going to work, you know. And I'm going to make one for each window, and then the back obviously here is going to have a door. Don't know if I'm going to put a window in that door or not, but I think I'd like to, just in case. So it's pretty much done. I think that's going to be about it for now. You know, if you like these videos, make sure you subscribe to my channel, and we'll get this up north. It's probably going to be about a month yet. It's what is it? It's middle of March. So usually up there, it all depends. I mean, it's already been the end of April and we still had snow out there. So, you know, I'm thinking the way the weather has been this year, maybe the middle of April, we'll get up there and we'll get this up on the platform, and you'll be able to see it, a finished product. But so probably about a month before we'll get this put back up. And you know, happy hunting, everybody.